Welcome to my review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, directed by Marc Webb, a film that continues to follow Peter Parker as he balances a romantic relationship, reunites with an old friend, furthermore searches for clues on what happened to his father, and battles a nerdy, obsessive fan who has electric powers. Okay, so I'm just going to give you my thoughts of what I thought about the first Amazing Spider-Man. To sum it up, I was actually one of the 5 people who actually liked the film. I actually thought it was a lot of fun, and, although it was far from perfect, it had an abundance of problems, I thought, hey, it was a fun summer blockbuster. Furthermore, I also really liked the choice of Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man Peter Parker. I thought he was really good, fit the role really well. I also really liked the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy because, being a fan of 500 Days of Summer, it did have little bits of 500 Days of Summer in there, which I did like. But even being a fan of the first Amazing Spider-Man, I had to be honest, I wasn't really anticipating this film, really because the trailers seemed to be giving way too much away. It really seemed like, okay, anything that I could be interested, to kind of pique my interest in seeing the film was already revealed in the trailers, particularly with the Electro character. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to talk about all that stuff in just a few minutes. But after seeing the film, I could say that I really think that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 suffers from something I like to call TMSGO syndrome, which means too much shit going on. As you can tell by my synopsis, there is a lot of stuff that happens in this film, and that's not necessarily a problem within itself, because it's not, but the problem is that all this stuff is just underdeveloped. Out of all the stuff that seems to work is the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, and everything else just kind of takes a back seat. And albeit that some of the dialogue between the two can be a bit cheesy sometimes, I really think this is probably where the film shines. What's great about their relationship is that there is a lot of chemistry. That might be because that, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are a real couple in reality, and you can really see that on screen. Now, one of the bigger problems I have with the film is the way the film handles Electro, played by Jamie Foxx. And I just want to come out and say it because apparently other people have been saying it as well, but he really does look like as if he just came straight out of a Joel Schumacher Batman film, which is not exactly a good thing. I mean, he really does look like a cross between Edward Nygma, played by Jim Carrey, and Mr. Freeze, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. 2 very bad combinations. But going back to the real problem I have with the character is just that he was just really poorly handled. And in fact, really, honestly, he had such little screen time, he could have been written out of the film completely because he really doesn't serve an overall purpose for the overall plot or the narrative whatsoever. Out of all the villains in the film, it really did seem as if the main focus was on Harry Osborn, played by Dane DeHaan, and that's completely fine, but I just don't really quite understand the reason to have a character like Electro in the film, other than to get some really cool action sequences out of it, and that's really kind of it. However, I will say that the action sequences are actually pretty damn nice. And since I'm on the subject of Dane DeHaan, one thing I have to say is that there are portions in this film, particularly in the very beginning of the film, where it seemed as if he were reading his lines out loud. That's how bad he was in the very beginning of this film. And he does get better, but my thing is that, Dane DeHaan, he's proven, many times that he's a good actor. In fact, I think he's a great actor. He's a great young talent, but here, I mean, he's just really bad in parts. And given that Marc Webb is the director, I kind of find it somewhat baffling how he could let something like this just slip right on by. And last but not least, my final problem with the film is the use of Rhino. If you're someone who saw the trailers and got excited when you saw Rhino on screen, then guess what? You're going to be incredibly disappointed because he's in the film for like maybe 5 minutes at the most. And it's not even... it's not even a real fight scene, to be honest with you. Yeah, talk about false advertising, which, I almost forgot. There's another problem I have with the film. Sorry about that. And that is regarding the stinger. And I'll be honest, I've kind of grown slightly annoyed with stingers. It just kind of seems like a cheap way of advertising an upcoming film or whatever. It just, I don't know, I've just gotten kind of annoyed by those. But anyway, the stinger for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is essentially, and I'm not using this word loosely here, it's essentially an advertisement for an upcoming movie. In fact, it's a clip, which, I'll be honest, that's kind of cheap. But as for the good, and I know that it seems like I've been ragging on this movie, and indeed I have, but I'll be honest, I actually enjoyed this movie more than I didn't, because, despite the movie having some very cheesy bits with, of course, the Electro character and all kinds of other stuff, I actually found the cheesiness to be enjoyable because it was so cheesy to where, I don't know, I either laughed, I chuckled, or, I mean, I just all had some fun with it. I mean, it's one of those movies. Now, normally this is something that I would probably be complaining about, but here I didn't really mind it. Maybe it's because I could never take the film seriously, and therefore I just kind of went with it. And not only that, but I did like the action sequences, and I did find the relationship between Peter and Gwen to be captivating and fun. Overall, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is cheesy, has an abundance of problems, yet at the same time, I think if you're someone who pays to see this at a matinee price with a couple of friends, I don't think you're going to come out disappointed because there is indeed enjoyment to be found. So I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man 2 a 3 out of 5. As always, I'm Colyn Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.